Hey creatives, Karen here, mixed media artist and creative at By the Wolf Moon. I have started a new project for my year of creative self-indulgence, and I just did it spur of the moment randomly yesterday when I found this little book in my stash, and so I forgot to, or didn't even think about filming it, and then realized this morning that I probably should for you guys to share as well. So I'll just show you what I've done so far. Basically it is a tiny little book that I picked up at an op shop for $1 or 50 cents or something like that, and I am going to turn it into an altered art journal type thing. So far all I have done is glue 2 pages together throughout the book. I didn't actually remove any of the pages from this book, which is something that you would typically do for an altered book. And the reason you do that is so that because the pages end up being quite thick, you need room for the cover to close. However, the book was already fairly empty, I guess, or fairly thin, so I was happy to use just the pages that were in it. But also the idea that I have is that the book will stand up by itself for display, so I am not too fussed about it closing nicely. So I have kept all of the pages, and there's only 9 anyway in this little book. Basically what I am going to do is turn the cover into, make this a dragon eye and have it scaled like it's a dragon. So far for the cover I have simply used a mixture of PVA and water to paper mache some paper towel on the cover to get some texture. And now I'm just going to do the back cover as well. I am not going to do the spine because I'll end up covering that with fabric of some sort. So right now I'm just going to carry on paper macheing this cover, this back cover, and then I'll do another layer on the front cover here. It is a good idea because the cover has a film or a kind of a really smooth glossy surface to sand it a wee bit before you start gluing, so that the glue has something to stick to a bit better. And I'll be folding this paper towel over to cover the edge of the book, so that's why I'm doing the inside cover as well, just the inside edges of the cover. So I just use normal PVA and add water to it. There's no exact ratio that I use, but it's just to make it a fairly liquidy whatever you call it, mixture. And this is pretty simple and straightforward. Paper towel is one of my favourite art supplies for mixed media art that I am doing. I like it for journal covers, altered books, because you can turn it into just about anything. It gives this really amazing, fabulous texture. So I'm going to do 2 layers and then let it dry, and then I'll probably do another one. Okay, so that is that side done. The awesome thing about working with a tiny little book is they're very quick. Usually I do massive, like, tomes. It takes me quite a lot longer to do the covers. Okay, we'll leave that to dry. It'll take a couple of hours probably, because we want it completely dry before I put the next layer on. So I will be back. Okay, back to this book. The paper towel is all dry now, and I have turned over the edges on the front cover, and I'm just going to do the back cover on camera for you so you can see how I do it. I just use straight PVA for this and my fingers. So the awesome thing about doing a cover like this is that it is messy. So you just got to smush it all down tight against the side of the cover. And the more glue you smush into the paper towel, the easier it is to work with. It doesn't matter that I'm getting glue all over this cover, because we'll be covering it up anyway later on. And that's it. Easy peasy. Quite enjoying having a little book to do. It's easy to pick up. Very quick. So now I just have to let that dry. The thing with an altered book cover, or the ones that I tend to do, is there's a lot of dry time. So I tend to have a few projects on the go at once so that I've got something to do or carry on with, because that took maybe 2 minutes, didn't it? And I can't do anything else until I've let it dry. Now, so the next step will be painting and adding some texture and making this eye. Okay, so the paper towel is all dry now, and the next step is to take my black Mod Podge. It is just matte Mod Podge that I have added black acrylic paint to, and cover all of the paper towel. So I'll do the outside first and wait for that to dry, and then I will go back and do the around the inside. This is just a base layer, so it doesn't matter that it's uneven in places, because actually most of it is going to be covered up anyway. And actually I just realized you're probably wondering why I'm not just using black acrylic paint, why I'm using Mod Podge with black paint in it, and the reason is because it will have a sheen, and that's kind of what I want. If there are places where you'll see the black base through what we put on top of it, then I'd want it to have that kind of a sheen. Even though it's matte Mod Podge, it still has a sheen to it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we'll leave that to dry and then come back for the next step. Okay, next step. That black Mod Podge that I put on is all dry now, and the next thing I want to do is add a bit more texture to the front and back. So what I'm going to do is use some bubble wrap, and I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it, and we'll start on the back in case it doesn't. And so I'm going to use bubble wrap and my texture paste, just with a brush. Okay, let's see if this works. That's pretty cool. I quite like that. I'm not sure if it's exactly what I'm looking for. What I'm going to do is yeah, that's cool. It was too circly, if that makes sense, before. So this is better. It's not, it's a bit more random. So it could be like the pattern of a skin, a dragon skin, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I was looking for. So, more dry time. I have to let that dry now and then I can do the front. Okay, this is dry now, and what I realized afterwards is that I hadn't done anything with the spine, and initially I was going to cover it with a piece of vinyl, and then I decided I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to break up the back and the front like that, so I have just covered it with the black Mod Podge, and I will texture over it the same way as I have done for the back and I'm about to do for the front. So for the front, because I don't want the texture to get on the eye, I'm just going to cover that with a little bit of masking tape. And then do the same that I did on the back with my texture paste. I'm thinking maybe I should have got a clean piece of bubble wrap to do this, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So once that is dry, I will come back and do the spine. Okay, so the whole cover is now got the texture paste on it, including the spine, and I've also done just a little bit around the inside edges of those front covers. The next step is to create the eye. So I'm just going to remove this masking tape, and I'm going to use paper clay to create an eye around here, but the first thing I want to do is make the eyeball a little bit more dragon-like. So I have this piece of card, which I'm not sure if you're going to be able to tell, but it is kind of black with an iridescent sheen. There you go. So what I'm thinking, because it's card, I need it to be thinner, so I'm going to peel a bit of the backing off. I only need a tiny sliver of this, and that's going to make the iris. Well, that's what I'm thinking anyway. Teeny tiny. Oh, uh-oh. The glue has actually removed some of that black, but it looks pretty cool. Okay, so that's more of a dragon-like eyeball. I might Mod Podge over the top. Oh, do I want a Mod Podge? Actually, what I want to do is... Okay, I have some Paper Effects Clear High Gloss Glaze. Let's see. I might... Oh, it's coming out. Now that's going to take forever to dry today because it's a rainy day. It's supposed to be the middle of summer here in New Zealand. It's cold. Well, cold for me. So that's going to take all day to dry probably, but I do have a couple of appointments today, so I didn't have much time to craft anyway. So I will just let that dry and I will come back later on this afternoon hopefully and sculpt the eye. Okay, so that glossy accents thingy that I put on there is nearly dry, not quite. You can still see it's milky in a few places, but I think it's dry enough for me to start using some paper clay to sculpt or create an eye around the eyeball. So I'm going to do that now. I'm probably not going to talk too much while I do it, but I will leave the video running so you can see. But you should know that I am not a sculptor or modeler or anything like that. I haven't used paper clay or modeling clay, polymer clay or anything like that very much. I've kind of dabbled in it, but I don't do a lot with it, so you know, just bear with me. You'll probably see me doing a lot of things that are strange. Alright, we're back. Time for the most exciting part, which is the painting. And I very nearly forgot to record this, and then for some reason I decided not to speak at all. So I am doing a voiceover, and I'm sorry, but I have a new computer and I haven't figured it all out yet, so I don't think the sound is very good. Hopefully you can bear with me. I just wanted to add a bit of commentary so that you have a clearer picture of what I'm doing here. I have mixed up some paint with a magenta pink and a tiny bit of Prussian blue colour, and I haven't mixed them completely together so that there will be some places that are more blue and other places that are more pink, and I did that on purpose. And I'm just doing a quick coat over the entire surface of the cover. And I just want to say that at the very start of this video I said that I had intended to create scales for the cover, and once I had used this textured layer, that kind of put an end to the whole scale thing and my plans for that, and I changed my mind, which is generally what happens when I'm creating. The piece of work just evolves regardless of what I had intended initially. So now it is going to be more like a textured skin effect rather than scales as such. So you'll remember underneath the white texture paste is the black Mod Podge layer. Then we've got the white texture paste that I did with the bubble wrap, and now I'm putting some paint layers on to get the final effect. The other thing is that in this little pot that I'm using, that I used to mix the paint in, I have a small amount of gold glitter, very fine glitter, and that is really just to add a tiny amount of sparkle, which you will see here and there, but it's very faint, and it's really just to add a little bit of light, a little bit of highlight to the paint. It's really not intended to have a glittery effect, and it doesn't. You'll see when the piece is finished. Although today is a very dark and rainy day, and so and it gets darker as I go along, and so actually it's very hard to show you in the end how cool this looks. But I will take proper photos as I continue and finish the book and stuff, so you will eventually see it if you continue watching. Okay, I'm really going to try not to talk too much because the sound quality is really bad, but now I'm just mixing up an orange colour with some red and yellow, using the same little pot that still has some glitter in the bottom, and yeah, you can see this is just a very light layer going in some places, not completely over the whole surface, which you'll see as we go along. And this next colour is a bright green, and I will put this on again even lighter still and in fewer places than the orange. And now a tiny bit of yellow. At this stage I realised that I hadn't mixed up enough of the purple to do the rest of the cover, and so I'm mixing that up again. And what you'll probably notice is that I don't make it anywhere near as bright as I made it for the back cover, and I do regret that slightly because the front cover comes out a lot more muddier, if that makes sense, but it's okay. I am not devastated. So it's just that magenta colour and a little bit of Prussian blue.
Okay, we are done for this first video, and I will do another one where I work on the inside of the book for you if you'd like to continue following along. And I probably will do something else to this cover, maybe. I'll have to see what evolves. But thank you again for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.